All right, well, welcome. This is a brief introduction and presentation on Ma'at, or Mayat, the divine feminine of sorts. The goddess is another way to express the significance of Ma'at, or Mayat, who was formulated into the construction of Ma'at in Ancient Kemet, otherwise known as Ancient Egypt, as titled by the ancient Greeks. Now, the Ancient Kemetic wisdom and sciences were mostly imported from ancient Nubia and southeastern African traditions that connect back to the original Homo sapiens sapiens on the planet. So, Ma'at, we are going to do a revisionist resurrection of the principles. There are 7 principles and the 42 laws of Ma'at. A revisionist resurrection implies that we are revisiting a vision that was already had or made, and in this case, it's a vision in regard to how to transliterate Ma'at insight into written languages to pass on throughout the scope of linear time as it appears to be moving forward. So we are revisiting the vision of Ma'at in the 21st century, and we are literally revisiting the E.A. Wallace Budge, who is a Eurocentric European cisgender male scholar, Egyptologist, let's say, from the early 1900s and late 1800s, so essentially from the early 20th century. Now, E.A. Wallace Budge was utilizing the Papyrus of Ani, which is an ancient Kemetic primary source. So he transliterated or translated, depending on your lens, the wisdom and the insight in the Papyrus of Ani, and in there he found an expression of the 7 principles, but he literally found the 42 laws of Ma'at, and he translated them utilizing the resource of the Rosetta Stone as it was deciphered by Maximilian. And that is how Medunetter, or hieroglyphics, began to be translated into different languages based on the Rosetta Stone, which held Greek and Medunetter, or hieroglyphics, on the same tablet, and some inferences were made by the Europeans at the time. So there's the full disclosure of how this insight has been colonized and repackaged towards us, which essentially explains the resurrection aspect of what we're doing here. We will be revisiting these principles and laws from a more Afrocentric and a more postmodern lens with a focus on equity, inclusivity, and fairness. So here we go. Ma'at, the principles of Ma'at. There are 7, as I said: truth, justice, balance, order, compassion, harmony, and reciprocity. So we'll begin with truth. Truth, honesty and trustworthiness. Honesty is when one is true to the reality of present self and is conscious of the many truths which are encompassed in one's perspective. Trustworthiness is being worthy of receiving the grace of trust from oneself and other self. To be worthy of being trusted, you must behave almost perfectly in a trusting manner, inherently and intentionally. Justice, aligning with the duality of order and chaos. Ma'at was when the infinite became finite and the duality arose indirectly from the non-dualistic phenomena of the non-dual primeval, or Nefer. To be in tune with both aspects, the non-dual and dual, is a sense of justice in regards to a postmodern Afrocentric perspective on Ma'at and justice. Balance. Managing the pendulum swing between justice, order, and injustice, chaos. Again, from within this duality. The balancing of order, expansion, and chaos, contraction, implies that the dualistic primordial holds both justice and injustice equally as plausible, but not identical in their impact. Okay, so justice and injustice are both possible, but have various impacts in the duality, the material world. Order. As the finite experience, not the infinite, the finite experience is supposed to have arisen from the infinite. The traversing of the finite is the path upon which the totality of Ma'atian complexity is found. The Ma'at principles and the 42 laws are meant to be utilized, and they are encapsulated within the duality, within the material world. And that finite experience is order. Compassion. A sensitivity to the complexity of every circumstance which arises as an iteration of existence, i.e., moment. Compassion beckons a focus on the collective confusion of actualizing the non-dual in a duality as a challenging endeavor. Compassion is holding space for oneself and every other self to be fallible, ignorant, and unbalanced in our collective efforts of hitting the mark and reconnecting with the infinite non-duality, Nefer, Adonai, Allah, Jah, Source, Krishna, is the reference in other traditions. Harmony, the results of one's journey towards and re-embodying the foundation and principles of Ma'at. Harmony is being in tune with the vibrations of the finite as a simultaneous contraction of the infinite. The reality of harmony is housed in the oneness which supersedes the perception of a paradigm for creation. Tuning in to the simplicity of complexity is one form of harmonious engagement. And the seventh principle, again, from a metaphysical, postmodern, Afrocentric lens, is this lens that we are interpreting the principles of Maat. Reciprocity being the seventh and so-called final principle. The process of traversing the in-between space found within the finite and infinite spectrum. The movement near the dual and non-dual occurs within a moment and an eternity at the same time. To transmit oneself between the duality of oneness is to practice reciprocity of the form and the formless. Reciprocity, again, in the cosmic, metaphysical, postmodern, Afrocentric sense. Now, the laws of Ma'at we'll be revisiting, and they will be from a more practical, maybe a more exoteric, less esoteric, more earth-based rather than cosmic-based in the way that the Afrocentric interpretation of the principles that you just heard was. So here are the 42 laws of Ma'at. I thank you for your time today in engaging in this concept, this ideology, this practice, this framework, because time is one of our most cherished commodities. So, the laws of Ma'at in an Afrocentric 2021 lens. 1. I will begin with reading the antiquated version from E.A. Wallace Budge, which in my mind encapsulates the Eurocentric perspective of the time, but also has sparks and aspects of transmission that I am efforting to connect with as in transmitting this ancient wisdom to the present. Again, from within a linear time conceptology, which the ancient Kemetic people may not have been limited to. So please bear with me and the challenges which come with that endeavor. So 1, E.A. Budge is in italics. I have not committed sin. The new translation, I have strived towards virtuous practice and to sustain moral action which aligns with the 7 ethical principles of Ma'at, which we just went over, the 7 principles. 2, I have not committed robbery with violence. 2, I have not taken anything that belongs to another through any form of pressure. 3, I have not stolen. 3, I have not taken that which is not offered. 4, I have not slain men and women. 4, I have abstained from overburdening the earth or its inhabitants in an effort to sustain plentiful life and balance devoid of extinction and scarcity. I have not exterminated another individual or species' ability to live or interfered with their ability to sustain life in the finite realm. Or the infinite realm, plausibly, but we can get into that another time. 5, I have not stolen grain. 5, I have abstained from any action which might limit the potential of any other self to sustain life or to live in a balanced ecology. 6, I have not purloined offerings. 6, I have not made a deity of oneself or other self, and have not accepted, procured, or abducted any religious gesture, such as an offering, as any testament of my or any other self's worth or value. 7, I have not stolen the property of the gods. 7, I have not idolized oneself or any other self as superior. I have abstained from elevating oneself or any other self to a higher mystical status, guru, than any other being is capable of transcending. 8, I have not uttered lies. I have refrained from speaking ill of oneself or any other being. I have been trustworthy in action and speech. 9, I have carried away food. 9, I have not carried away food. I have shared everything extra above and beyond what is necessary for physical, mental, and spiritual sustenance with any other self in need of sustenance. 10, I have not uttered curses. I have abstained from wishing or praying for the ill treatment or non-virtuous experiences for any other self. I have acknowledged that there is shame and avoided seeking the non-virtuous pseudo-power of blaming oneself or any other self. 11, I have not committed adultery. I have not lain with men. 11, I have refrained from taking that which has been already consensually granted to any other self. I have abstained from group speak, propaganda, and other forms of communally inspired lies concerning oneself and any other self. 12, I have made none to weep. 12, I have not manipulated oneself or any other self, nor instigated, disrespected, discredited, slandered, or minimized. 13, I have not eaten the heart, i.e., I have not grieved uselessly or felt remorse. 13, I have not imposed shame upon oneself or any other self. I have loved wholly, respectfully, and faithfully. I have obtained from violating non-consent or any consensual pacts. 14, I have not attacked any man. 14, violence is any action beyond the necessary effort to sustain all life on the planet. I have abstained from violent physical, metaphysical, emotional, psychological, and all other forms. 15. I am not a man of deceit. 15. I have trusted those who exhibit trustworthy actions and praxis. I have not behaved in any way that inhibits one's ability to be trusted. I have abstained from lying, sharing established falsehoods to oneself or to any other self. 16. I have not stolen cultivated land. 16. No one can ever own land. We merely visit and interact with land in a sustainable ecology. I have not intruded upon another's ecology when it was sustainable and in tune with the balance of space and nature. 17. I have not been an eavesdropper. 17. I have abstained from the theft of physical wisdom or intellectual scholarly property or presenting it as one's own. Insight must be offered to all people regardless of one's place in any hierarchical social, religious, or political structure. 18. I have slandered no man. 18. I have not attempted to discredit oneself or any other self. I have allowed the merit of one's actions or karma to validate or invalidate the virtuosity of one's intent. 19. I have not been angry without just cause. 19. I have not initiated, escalated, or perpetuated anger in oneself or any other self. 20. I have not debauched the wife of any man. 20. I have abstained from distracting oneself or any other self from their consensually established purpose in relations with any other self. 21. I have not debauched the wife of any man. It repeats. 21. In repeat. I have abstained from sexual misconduct towards or manipulation and abuse of any person or being, as we are all an extrapolation of the non-dual pre-primordial primeval Nefer. 22. I have not polluted myself. 22. I have not overindulged or oversaturated oneself or any other self with toxic materials such as too much food, drugs, propaganda, fear, etc. 23. I have terrorized none. 23. I have abstained from inciting or perpetuating fear in oneself or any other self. I have never inflicted pain or suffering upon oneself or any other self. 24. I have not transgressed the law. 24. The Ma'at doctrine equals law. I have respected the balance of the ethical form Ma'at as an ultimate expression of the blueprint or key to re-entering the formless Nefer. I have upheld the path and law of Ma'at in every aspect of form. The finite, material, postmordial, metaphysical, celestial, cosmic, etc. 25. I have not been wroth. 25. I have abstained from self-cruelty and any indifference to the pain of oneself or any other self. 26. I have not shut my ears to the words of truth. 26. I have avoided listening when mistruths were spoken or espoused, perpetuated or condoned. 27. I have not blasphemed. 27. I have abstained from clergy misconduct, guru, rabbi, pastor, imam, medicine man, swami, shaman, shawoman misconduct. I have avoided projecting negative energy towards oneself or any other self. 28. I am not a man of violence. 28. I have not imposed more than necessary upon oneself or any other self. The threshold of necessity can only be established by the one who is holding the lower status or role power in the power paradigm. I have been free of violence or perpetuating violence. 29. I am not a stir-up of strife or a disturber of the peace. 29. I have abstained from manipulating, instigating, and escalating emotional stress, vulnerability, or confusion. 30. I have not acted or judged with undue haste. 30. I have been patient in one's actions and abstained from judging oneself or any other self without compassion, due diligence, or respect for our collective lineage and the phenomena of living or life. 31. I have not pried into matters. 31. I have received consent and provided consent regarding engaging in any and every situation. 32. I have not manipulated my words in speaking. 32. I have not exaggerated upon reality. 33. I have wronged none, I have done no evil. 33. I have abstained from unlawful or unmayatian or off the mark and inaccurate intention, action, karma, and impact. 34. I have not worked witchcraft against the king or blasphemed against the king. 34. I have abstained from attempting to curse any and every other self or being at all times. 35. I have never stopped the flow of water. 35. I have not minimized oneself or any other self's ability to sustain living. I have not dislodged or strayed from the path of the shared ancestral lineage, Ma'at, and one has always remembered and honored the ancestors. I have not elevated or glorified those ancestors whom strayed from the Ma'atian way, path, mark, or law. 36. I have never raised my voice, spoken arrogantly or in anger. 36. I have spoken from a place of confidence and balance. The voice is powerful in its humble, non-ego dominated and accurate state. I have spoken only that which is required. 37. I have not cursed or blasphemed the God. 37. I have not disregarded the plausibility that Homo sapiens sapiens are interdependent upon the totality of existence. I have abstained from efforts to inflict harm upon oneself or any other self through either esoteric or exoteric experiences or means. 38. I have not acted with evil rage. 38. I have not engaged in non-virtuous or delirious actions. 39. I have not stolen the bread of the gods. 39. I have not discredited or challenged the sustenance of any form of faith, wisdom, or tradition that abstains from minimizing, misrepresenting, misappropriating, commodifying, spiritually bypassing, extorting, plagiarizing, discrediting, or exterminating of any faith, wisdom, traditions. 40. I have not carried away the kanfu cakes from the spirits of the dead. 40. I have abstained from disrespecting or desecrating any being that has transitioned to the spirit realm. I have given thanks for any sustenance which is provided by the finite form, food, of any previously living being, as in meat, fish, fruit, vegetables, etc. 41. I have not snatched away the bread of the child, nor treated with contempt the God of my city. 41. I have not inhibited the sustenance of any child. I have not hidden the principles of Ma'atian living, and have not lived in a way that deems the path exclusive, unattainable, are belonging to only a specific culture or limited group of the Homo sapiens sapiens species. 42. I have not slain the cattle belonging to the gods. 42. I have not taken life or the ability to thrive from oneself or any other self or being. Those are the 42 laws of Ma'at. Ma'at will witness your actions and mark it. Do not forget to do this even when away from Al-Kebulan, or Africa, our home. For as you do for parents and ancestors, your children and descendants do for you also. One final note about the laws of Ma'at and engaging. The principles and laws of Ma'at are meant to be engaged with from within. When one, in the tradition, the ancient Kemetic tradition, the narrative holds that when you transcend into the afterworld, or realms, or dimensions, you will be presented in front of Ma'at in some form. Ma'at is often represented as a feather. Your heart, in essence, symbolically, will be weighed in a balance against the feather of Ma'at. If your heart is lighter than the feather of Ma'at, with the burden of not fulfilling or living up to the 42 laws of Ma'at and in alignment with the 7 principles, then you will be required to come back and relive the existence again in this Homo sapiens sapiens material realm, until one can hit the mark and their heart is lighter in burden than the feather of Ma'at, and then you can transcend to various dimensions that will be discussed at various times. A key crucial component to the experience of being in the presence of Ma'at is that the 42 laws specifically are statements. They're not directives or rules. It is not saying, you shall not commit sin. It says, I have not committed sin, right? It does not say, you shall or you must strive towards virtuous practice and to sustain moral actions which align with the 7 ethical principles of Ma'at. No, it says, I have. You are making a declaration or a statement in the presence of Ma'at. You are proud. This is a joyous, harmonious moment of reciprocity. This is the balancing of the dual and the non-dual. This is being whole or one with Nefer. And Ma'at is the mirror or the reflection of our behavior, the ethical compass, which is intertwined, inseparable from the exoteric and the esoteric paths of the ancient Kemetic people and the postmodern neo-Kemetic path, or mark as it's being resurrected in the contemporary. So again, thank you for your time. It is truly one of our most cherished commodities of sorts. I look forward to much further engagement in the principles and the laws of Ma'at, and I appreciate all of you. I look forward to learning from you, and I thank you for your presence.